mortal threats to your safety secret from you, you start to regard everything they do with even more suspicion than you ought to as citizens of a free country. Thomas Jefferson said, "Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty." This is the planet Mars. It is the closest planet in the cosmos that is like Earth. This is what it looks like now, of course. It is basically a frozen desert, but in the past, it used to have an ocean in the north and be very Earth-like. The Viking lander was a magnificent accomplishment. I mean, here I am talking trash about Jet Propulsion Lab. They are magnificent technicians, and they are following orders, of course, either spoken or unspoken. And they landed on Mars in 1976 in a magnificent demonstration of American technology. All of the time you thought we were going to Mars and the moon for science or some great human adventure. No, we were doing this to show up the Russians and make them think twice about having a war with us, and it worked. We gave them an enormous scientific and technological inferiority complex. And since most of the Cold War was psychological, this was extremely important. Now, when the Viking lander landed, we landed 2 landers on Mars for the US bicentennial. And the first thing they did was sample the atmosphere. Now, the atmosphere of a planet, especially like Earth, tells you a lot about the planet. Our atmosphere is 20% oxygen. The rest is nitrogen, and then there's various noble gases that don't interact with anything. And planetary scientists pay careful attention to what are called the noble gases that don't chemically interact with things. Things like these are like neon, helium, argon, and a gas called krypton. And then there is xenon. Xenon is the heaviest of the noble gases, and it has a very interesting property. It has 5 stable isotopes. So you can run a fingerprint. Depending on the relative abundances of these isotopes, you can run a fingerprint and figure out what has happened on that planet, especially as far as nuclear things, because of the xenon. And as I found out when I was investigating this finally, I started out investigating the dark secrets of Mars, and I ended up finding the dark secrets of Earth. Mars has very unique xenon isotopes. They are different than Earth. They are different from Jupiter, from the solar wind coming straight from the sun. They're different from any moon rocks. If you grind up meteorites and get the gas out of there, the xenon in there, all follows the same pattern that's very similar to Earth. And this is considered the standard solar system mix of xenon that we inherited from the interstellar dust that formed the solar system. But Mars is so distinctive that you probably wondered, how do they know if a meteorite is from Mars? Well, one way they do it is they sample the xenon in it. If the xenon matches Mars, they know it's from Mars because there is no xenon like it from any other body in the solar system. Here is Mars xenon versus Earth xenon. Earth is in blue. You can see they overlay very well for the isotopes 132, 134, etc. But at 129, Mars has 2.5 times more xenon 129 than the Earth does. And by the way, it has this, you could put any other planet up there and it would look the same. Mars is different from every other planet. It has this big load of xenon 129. And sadly, this is weapons signature. If you match this xenon to the output of a hydrogen bomb, you get a very good match. There is only one place in the solar system where in a planetary atmosphere you find anything like the xenon signature of Mars, and that is the part of the atmosphere of the Earth that has changed dramatically since 1945, when we discovered nuclear weapons. This data, which was published shortly after the landing on Mars, shows that for xenon 129, here's Earth before 1945, or here it is now, and here it is from air samples before 1945, and you can see 10%, roughly 10% of the xenon 129 wasn't there before. Most of the other xenon isotopes haven't changed at all, but 129 has changed considerably, and that's because of the open air nuclear tests and also production of plutonium. In fact, if I was really interested, I could probably try and parse out how much plutonium this intelligent species on this planet has made. It is more than you imagine in your worst nightmares. The human race has been arming itself to the teeth for a big nuclear war since 1945. And the way we know that is because of this xenon 129, because of the testing of nuclear weapons and the production of plutonium. This requires fast neutrons. Fast neutrons don't react as well as the slow neutrons. Now, if we take the weapons xenon and mix it with like 30-70, 30% or normal Earth and then 70% weapons xenon, we get Mars. And this indicates that on Mars, nuclear reactions occurred which dwarf anything that happened on Earth. Most of the Martian atmosphere is a residue from an enormous nuclear explosion. And we can see this when you split atoms. Normally you get two peaks of activity. You get like strontium-90 and iodine 137. Those are both things that you have to watch out for in fallout because they collect in the human body. But in a hydrogen bomb with fast neutrons, the double peak thing gets all smeared out. Here, on the other hand, is the output of an ordinary nuclear reactor. You can see it produces almost no 129 at all. So the 129 in the Earth's atmosphere is not due to any kind of nuclear reactor operating in a normal way. It is due to weapons. The planetary community is very much beholden to the US government on what it spends time investigating. All it takes is a raised eyebrow from your government sponsor, and your average college professor will completely lose interest in any line of investigation that the US government does not want to encourage. I only found this a week ago. It's been in the literature for years. It matches Mars, but no one has pointed this out except for me now at the next scientific meeting. And the reason is this is considered to be the result of a supernova explosion. In other words, a hydrogen bomb in space. So something that looks like this. So we have weapon signature on Mars. And the only thing that resembles the xenon pattern is hydrogen bomb residues on Earth. If you look at the krypton, They analyzed the Mars rocks. We have Mars rocks now. Mars is sending us free samples. And we find that the krypton indicates that large areas of Mars were irradiated with a heavy dose of neutrons at high energy. Not only that, Mars' atmosphere is so thin that when we orbit probes around Mars, we can actually see gamma rays through the surface. And we find that Mars' surface is covered with a thin layer of uranium and thorium. We know it's a thin layer because the Mars meteorites we get hardly have any uranium and thorium at all in them, but the surface is covered with almost Earth normal amounts. The gamma rays from Mars come from two areas principally. This area in a place called Mare Acidalium, and this area over here in a place called Utopia. This is potassium. Apparently this was something exploded here, sent streamers of material all the way around the planet, and shock waves that collided on the far side of the planet. On the opposite side, like you stuck a pencil through an orange and it came through the core and it came out the other side. This is what's called the antipode, indicating a global debris pattern. And you find the same thing in thorium. Here's Utopia, Mare Acidalium, and the antipode. So we also find, if you look there does appear to be a burn spot. But whatever happened left no craters. There is no crater there. There should be a big hole blasted in the surface, but there's nothing. This means whatever happened was an airburst. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were airbursts. They did not explode the bombs in midair for humanitarian reasons at Nagasaki and Hiroshima. They knew if they did that, it would maximize shock wave damage to the civilian buildings. It was recently revealed that the areas where the radioactive activity occurs, here's Utopia, here's Mare Acidalium, is covered with a peculiar glass called trinitite. It's found at the nuclear test site, and it's formed by a nuclear fireball above a desert. What is the significance of two explosion sites, one in Mare Acidalium and one here in Utopia? They're both in the north, both over what used to be the dried ocean bed. But if you look on Mars, the prevailing winds, which send the strongest shock waves, and also the fallout, would have all gone here from this large one to a place called Cydonia Mensa. And the next one the smaller one would have gone here to a place called Galaxious Chaos. By the way, here are the rovers. Here's the Opportunity rover, and here's the Curiosity rover. You notice they landed them as far away as possible. We don't want to take any pictures that might cause problems. If we're just driving around Mars, we want to go it in a safe place. Now, the explosions appear to be correlated to deliver the maximum dose of fallout from the bomb explosions to these two sites. Did they do it to themselves or did somebody else do it? And that is the big question now. These explosions on Mars were not natural. There is no known natural phenomenon that could have caused these effects, turning thousands of square miles of Martian surface into molten glass, spreading radioactivity all the way around the planet, filling the atmosphere with isotopic residues of a fast neutron reaction like a bomb, and irradiating the surface with neutrons. This apparently happened about 250 million years ago, long time before the human race was around. There weren't even dinosaurs around when this happened.